moving on from the all-star stuff, we're going to go into the section we've been doing where we're going to talk about a team in recent memory that probably should have done more than they did during the season or in the postseason, however you want to look at it. So I'm actually going to do a team from this past season right now. So everybody should remember this pretty vividly. I'm doing the Toronto Blue Jays from last year. So the Blue Jays came in fourth in the AL East. I think they had 91 wins. So that's fourth place. That just tells you how good the division actually was. Um, and they finished a game behind the Red Sox and the Yankees, a game or two. The Red Sox and the Yankees were tied, and then the Rays were in first in the division. So, you know, if you look at standings, was a disappointing season for them? Sure, but they won 91 games. If you look at the National League, there weren't many teams who won that many games that didn't make the playoffs at all. So if you just look at their lineup first, they had George Springer, the big free agent signee. He did get hurt somewhat, but he played 78 games. He had 22 homers and a 907 OPS. He kind of split time between outfield. He DH sometimes too. So they were just trying to keep him on the field there. Then you had Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette had 298 batting average, 29 bombs, 102 RBIs, 828 OPS, and he had 25 stolen bases. I think he probably should have gotten more recognition for the season that he actually had. Then you had Vladdy at first base. He played in 161 games, 311, 48 homers, 1.002 OPS. Then you had Marcus Semien, who played in every single game, 162 games, 45 homers, set a record for homers by a second baseman, 873 OPS. He also had over 100 RBIs. Then you had Teoscar Hernandez, played about 140 games, 296, 32 homers, 116 RBIs, led the team in RBIs, and had an 870 OPS. Then you had Lourdes Gurriel, also hit above 20 homers, 21 homers, 84 RBIs. Randall Grichuk kind of was platooning with DH outfield with Springer for the most part. He had 81 RBIs, 22 homers. Kevin Biggio only played in 79 games. He really didn't look like himself. I think he was probably battling injuries. He should probably be back better than ever next year. He only had 7 homers. And then you had Danny Jansen, the catcher, pretty much the everyday catcher. He had 11 homers, 28 RBIs. So, from those bottom two guys, you really didn't get much production. But for the rest of the lineup, you really did. And, in my opinion, I think when you look at how the lineup was constructed, you look at Bichette, Guerrero, Simeon, Hernandez, and Gurriel and Grichuk. Honestly, they all played above 140 games. And like Simeon played 162, Vlad played 161, and Bichette played 159. Getting that from your 2, 3, and 4 hole in the lineup. I mean, their offense was obviously not the problem last year. These guys pretty much all had like career seasons. Teoscar Hernandez really broke out in a big way. Grichuk kind of did his thing out there quietly. He had 81 RBIs. Gurriel too, 84 RBIs. So I think that like I said, their offense was unbelievable. Me being a Yankee fan, I saw it all the time. But if you get into their starting pitching was pretty damn good too. So you start off, you have Robbie Ray, who was the Cy Young winner this year. 32 starts, 2.84 ERA, 248 strikeouts. I believe that led the American League. And he had 11 and a half strikeouts per nine. So he was racking those up. Next best guy was probably Steven Matz. He pitched in 29 games. He had a 3.82 ERA, 8.6 strikeouts per nine. Then you had Hanjin Ryu, who was the big signing from the year before. He had a 4.37 ERA, but his FIP was really right around 4. So not a fantastic season, but not bad either. I know he's supposed to be the ace there, but I think he'll probably step up next year. I just think it's good for him to be healthy, honestly, because he got hurt a lot when he was with the Dodgers. And this past year, he pitched in 31 games. So that's for a guy that used to get hurt a lot. That's pretty solid. He went and towed the slab every 5 days. Then you had Alec Manoa, who was a rookie. He pitched in 20 games. He had a 3.22 ERA, 10.2 strikeouts per nine. And then you had Jose Barrios, who they traded for at the trade deadline and just recently extended. So he's going to be a part of their rotation next year. He had a 3.58 ERA, and a 1.095 whip over 12 games. So if you look at their starting rotation, that honestly was not really the issue with the team either. They had a Cy Young winner. They had everyone else was pretty solid. Everyone had a ERA below 4 except for Ryu, and he probably should have been right around 4. So Barrios had his best season ever. Obviously, part of that was with the Twins, but he should probably still even grow more next year. I think he kind of found a home in Toronto. He signed a 7-year extension. That means he likes it there. Obviously, Robbie Ray left now too, but they still got some solid pieces in that rotation. Then you go to the bullpen. So that was probably the biggest issue with this team for most of the season. They had Jordan Romano at the back end. They were kind of looking for a closer for most of the season after they signed Kirby Yates, and then he got hurt. I believe he had Tommy John surgery before the season even started. But Jordan Romano pitched in 62 games. He had 23 saves, a 2.14 ERA, and 12.1 strikeouts per 9. So once he kind of settled into that closer role, he was really solid for them. Then you had Tim Meza, I believe is how you say his name. He pitched in 61 games. He had a 3.40 ERA. He had a whip below 1, and he had 9.7 strikeouts per 9. So he was a big lefty coming out of there. Then you had Adam Simber, who I believe was a trade before the deadline. He pitched in 39 games for them. He had a 1.69 ERA. He also had a whip below 1. So he was solid also. Rafael Dolis pitched in 39 games. He had 3 saves, but he had a 5.63 ERA. So that's kind of where you drop off after Simber. Their bullpen kind of fell apart. Then you had Trent Thornton was another guy. He had a 4.78 ERA. He pitched a lot out of the bullpen. The list kind of goes on and on for those bullpen guys that weren't really good, aside from Romano, Meza, and Simber, who again came over at the deadline. So they really only had Romano and Meza the whole year being really good. That was the issue. We saw them fall apart a lot at the back end. So I think the Blue Jays are probably going to contend again for a wild card, if not win the division. And I'm saying that as a Yankees fan, but they got an offense that is unbelievable. They need to fix the bullpen though. They really do. I think I would keep Romano in the closer role if I was them. And I would kind of just piece together some other guys. And if you have to put somebody else at the closer role, go for it. You don't have to have a set closer anymore nowadays. Then you look at their bench. Their bench was pretty solid too, man. They had Santiago Espinal. Pretty much he actually played more games than Biggio did at third, but I kind of had him on the bench because he wasn't supposed to be the starter. But when he did play, he had a 3.11 batting average, 781 OPS, 6 stolen bases, 2 home runs. So not really a power guy, but he would get on base a lot. Then you had Corey Dickerson, who was also a guy they traded for at the deadline. He had a 282 batting average, 4 homers, a 779 OPS in limited action. So once he got traded over, he was pretty solid. Then you had Alejandro Kirk, who was a catcher. He would also DH some. He played in 60 games. He had 8 homers and a 764 OPS. So for a guy that didn't play every day, that's pretty solid. It also wouldn't surprise me if Kirk is the everyday catcher next year. They really like him a lot. I know they have Jansen and they have Maguire, who's a guy I'm about to talk about, but Kirk is probably the future. He could probably hit anything you throw at him. So, but so going on to Maguire played in 78 games. He was also a catcher. He only had 1 home run and a 654 OPS. So not a very good season from him. And then you had Jonathan Davis, who played about 52 games in the outfield, but he really didn't play well. He had a batting average below 200, only 1 homer, 4 stolen bases, 4 RBIs. So 52 games to have stats that bad, not really great. But again, he didn't probably get that many opportunities with the way the offense was. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think the Blue Jays could have done more if they had a better bullpen. Because it really came down to the last weekend of the regular season to see if the Blue Jays were going to make the playoffs or they were going to have to play a play-in game first. There could have been a 4-way tie between the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Mariners, and the Blue Jays. So, I think if the Blue Jays made it to the playoffs, they would have been really dangerous. I know they didn't have the bullpen, like I keep saying, but if you have an offense like that and you have starting pitching like they have, you could go pretty fucking far in the playoffs. So, if they make it this year, look out because you're gonna have to navigate a lineup with all these guys. They don't have any holes really except at the catcher position. But if Alejandro Kirk does what he's gonna do, they don't have any holes in their lineup at all. So um, I'm interested to see what kind of moves they make for their bullpen. I think that they need to make some though, and I know their GM Ross Adkins probably has that under control, but don't let this lineup and let this pitching staff be wasted because you don't have a bullpen. I think you got to go for it. You're playing in the best division in baseball, probably. Besides the Orioles, all four teams are trying to compete at the moment. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think the Blue Jays, they could have really gone far in the playoffs had they made it. So look for them to really make a big jump next year, though, because I think the AL East again is probably going to be the best division in baseball next year. All right, so